we always talk internally about perfect the basics, right? So if someone calls us, like pick up the phone, right? Don't send that to voicemail. If somebody emails you, respond to that email within one day, even if your response is, hey, I'm working on it, I don't have the answer yet. So I started the company in my living room, and I'll never forget. It was the middle of summer. I didn't have air conditioning, and so I would pull the curtains through the entire room just to try and get some reprieve from the heat. But it was that time. It's so exciting. Like I'm so nostalgic for it now. But it was the time where, as a CEO, you did everything, right? You weren't really a CEO. You were really, chief janitor and chief everything else. So I was calling clients directly. I was, sourcing all the real estate companies that we were doing business with. If there was an ad that was going out, I was writing that ad. If there was an email that was going out, I was writing that email. So it's really this, really in the weeds time where there's no employees, right? And when there's no employees and there's no people to help you build, the team and the company, you're really in the weeds doing everything. I used to call every single new sign up on our website and personally welcome them, but I didn't want them to know that I was the CEO. Right. So I wouldn't identify myself as the CEO. I would just say, hi, I'm calling on behalf of Realty Mogul. Thank you so much for signing up. If you have any questions, feel free to call us. But I made, thousands of welcome calls in the early days.
People listening to this, they want to do, they want to start and own in their multifamily real estate and become financially free and just go out on their own. And so anyone who leaves their corporate job and starts their own company, they kind of go through a similar thing, right? There's doubt, self-doubt, there's some setbacks. What were some of the challenges that you faced early on when you left your job and started Realty Mogul?
Yeah, so I invested my own capital to start the company, but that only went so far, right? And so we needed capital for the business, right? Not for the real estate transactions, but for the operating company. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go out and raise a seed round. And it was going to be $1 million. So the idea was to go out and raise a seed round of $1 million. I probably had 100 coffee meetings where 100 times somebody told me no. And I don't drink coffee. So I'm an anti-caffeine person. So you can think about how painful that was, not drinking coffee and also hearing the word no. It was the hardest $1 million that I ever raised.
It's a good thing you don't love bourbon, because that would have been even more challenging. 100 bourbon meetings.
True. True. But it was the hardest $1 million that I've ever raised. I mean, I've now been involved in, over $1 billion in capital raising. And had I not stuck it out to raise that first $1 million, the company wouldn't exist. And it's kind of the advice that I give a lot of entrepreneurs who ask me for advice. I say, just keep going, right? The only person that can kill your business is you. But just keep going, right? And keep persevering and keep fighting. And so, I think it was the 103rd meeting that, one of the investors said, yeah, I'm in. And then from there, it was a lot more smooth sailing on that first $1 million.
And this is such great advice. And this is one thing I noticed as well for people, is they have to stick with it. But man, 103, 102 unsuccessful meetings, it's a pretty bad record, Jillian. I mean, holy moly. How did you get to that 102nd? Like, why did you even go past like the 12th, right? Like why did you keep doing it?
I think I really believed in this idea, right? I really believed in this idea of democratizing access to real estate. And so, we've always been a mission-oriented company, right? We don't think that real estate should strictly be available to, the folks who know somebody at the country club, right? The world has just evolved so far beyond that. So I think that I had confidence in the idea. But probably I was stubborn and naive. This was 10 years ago. I was much younger, much more naive. I always ask myself, like, if I was faced with that again today, could I still do it? And the true question is, I don't know. Right. But 10 years ago, I didn't know any better. Like I didn't, I was just so naive that there was never a doubt in my mind that I was going to do it. It was just a matter of, how much pain and suffering can I go through?
It's so funny, because I feel the same way about my first deal. I would never do that first deal, because we used a nice word, naive. I was ignorant. I had happy ears on, and I was so confident I could do that. And you do it again, you're like, I would never do that again. That's so it's so funny. But talk about what Realty Mogul is, because we've kind of hinted at, and some people may not know what Realty Mogul is, and what is it? What do you do?
Sure. So we're an online platform for real estate investing. On one side of the platform, we've got real estate companies. And on the other side of the platform, we have investors who are looking to diversify into real estate. So those investors can come to our platform and browse a whole variety of real estate investments, from multifamily, office, retail, industrial, self-storage, cold storage, mobile home parks, kind of the list goes on. And real estate companies can use our technology and use our administrative services to access capital for their offerings. So, we've built this marketplace where investors can be connected to real estate deals, real estate companies can be connected to investors. And really the mission is to expand access to real estate investing. I think it's a really critical part of a diversified portfolio. A lot of folks in the country, have really easy access to stocks and bonds, but when it comes to private real estate investing, they sort of don't know where to go, right? And so we really wanted to solve that problem and make real estate much more accessible.
And there's quite a few, syndicators out there. You're a little bit different because you're connecting, and I know you're, very involved in the markets to a degree. But what makes Realty Mogul different than everyone else? Because it's such a really modernized, chic platform. But I'd love to hear it from you.
Yeah, it's maybe a strange question, but I think it's twofold. One, like we always talk internally about perfect the basics, right? So if someone calls us, like pick up the phone, right? Don't send that to voicemail. If somebody emails you, respond to that email within one day, even if your response is, hey, I'm working on it, I don't have the answer yet, right? So I think that it's that level of client service. We also believe in white glove service. So every accredited investor that comes on the platform gets a dedicated investor relations representative that they can reach out to directly if they have any questions about the platform. So we're a digital platform, but we also still really believe in human connection, right? And in having a dedicated person that you can talk to and being able to have an intelligent real estate conversation. We host webinars for every single deal. So we're very focused on education as well. So even if someone, doesn't want to make an investment with us, I just deeply believe that people should be educated about real estate investing, which is why I do, podcasts like this. And they're a lot of fun to, help build more awareness. But I really think that it's our culture, it's our people, it's the white glove service, that sets us apart from many of the other platforms in the space.
Those are back to basics. It's kind of a lost art, like the handwritten note, for example. I love that. But talk about how it's different to invest with Realty Mogul versus, investing in a private placement, in a syndication, kind of like what we do. What are some of the differences?
I mean, there's probably not very many differences, right? The offerings that are posted on the platform are
the
private
minimum
syndications.
The minimum investment, for example, right? I mean, ours in the meantime is 100,000, most are minimum $50,000, and yours is substantially less than that. So it opens up, like you said, real estate to almost the masses.
Right. I mean, yeah, typically the minimums are between 25,000 and 35,000. So the way it works on the Realty Mogul platform is that you can either choose to invest in an individual deal. That is a syndication, right? So crowdfunding in my mind is just a synonym with syndication, right? You're pooling capital together with other investors that you may or may not know. So those are individual transactions. We also have 2 real estate investment trusts or REITs on the platform, and those are diversified pools of assets, right? So if you want to buy a specific apartment building, you're going to buy into an individual asset. If you want to buy, a pool of apartment buildings or a pool of apartment buildings and retail and office, and you want to get broader based diversification, we also have 2 REITs, that allow investors to do that.
So REITs, okay, let's bring that up because a lot of people confuse investing in syndications or with Realty Mogul and a REIT. How is a REIT similar or different to real estate, right? Are these publicly traded REITs? Like how are they different? Why would someone invest in one or the other?
Yeah. So look, if you're investing in an individual asset, it really gives you control, right? You have total control over the selection process. You can pick investments in a specific location. Maybe it's a place that you live. Maybe it's a place that you know well. And you also select a specific property. So maybe you want exposure to office or retail or industrial or self-storage, et cetera. When you invest in a REIT, on the other hand, the Realty Mogul team is making that selection. So our team has discretion over which assets that capital is going to go to invest into. So you lose a little bit of control as an investor, right? If you want control, you're probably better off going in an individual deal. If you want to sort of set it and forget it, you might be better off going into, one of those REITs. But the REITs tend to be diversified. So you can get exposure, across markets, across different business strategies, in some instances across, different property types. We have one REIT that's strictly apartments. It's called the Apartment Growth REIT. And we have another REIT called the Realty Mogul Income REIT that's more focused on diversified product mix. So it has some office, it has some retail, also has some apartments in it. So, and then the other difference is the tax treatment. So if you're investing in an individual deal, you get a K1 that will allow you to write off, depreciation off of your taxes. If you're investing in the REITs, you get a 1099 that reports, your dividends earned and the capital gain, distributions, if there are any that were paid throughout the year. And then REIT shareholders can also deduct 20% of the taxable REIT dividend income. So, there's some tax benefits there as well, but, difference in tax treatment, difference in controls, difference in the amount of sort of energy and effort you have to spend, doing your own due diligence as well.